Italy is a much bigger economy than Greece, and with everything that happened in Greece, we can get a good idea of what will happen in Italy, and it doesn't look pretty. We have unbelievable amounts of debt, which is a big issue because each of these countries own each other's debt. Then you have a contagion problem. You can't escape it. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at the problem in Italy. It is the center of the euro collapse. Let's begin by taking a look at the Italy 2-year yield. You can see that it has risen to levels that have not been seen since 2014. Draghi made the promise. We will stop at nothing to ensure that this stays afloat. And here we are today seeing it practically overnight rising so considerably higher than what we have been used to. There has been this declining trend over the past few years. However, things can change in an instant. That's in Italy, but it's also happening in Spain as well. Things just ignite in such a short period of time. And that's really what I want to tell you here, is that people think that they can expect the unexpected, but it never works like that, and it never will. It's always going to be able to occur before you can ever know it will. This is the type of thing that people are not realizing as they go through and they buy new investments and things. You need to understand, always hedge your bets, okay? This is also going on in other countries like Portugal, where you can see the European sovereign redenomination risk. There is such risk that is going on in the Eurozone because of all the contagion. As I mentioned earlier, we have this problem where a country like, for example, Germany may own the debt of Italy, Portugal, and Spain. And as a result, what if one of these countries leaves the Eurozone? What if one of these countries starts to default on their debt? Well, you have a country like Germany that suddenly is stuck holding on to these paper pieces of garbage, and that is something that they are worried about. So they engage in bailout programs. They have been doing this with the CSPP. They've been doing this with all of their other programs that have been going on over the years. They have engaged in every possible means in order to keep the EU afloat, and it's barely done so, just barely. But here we are. Now, Portugal is one of those countries that faced the music a few years ago, and it was said that everything was going on a better trend. However, I would definitely like to take the opposite end of that thought and believe the truth, and that is the entire EU is coming down. It's simply a matter of time. The best possible thing that can happen is to leave the EU, take the pain for a year, 2, 3, 4 years, and then be able to gain momentum. Imagine if you had a weak currency, how great that would be for your exports. If Italy went back to the lira, and yes, they would experience pain for a little while, but their cheap currency would bring in a lot of investment. They would have so much going for it, and that would allow it to start to generate the economy again. But if you're suffering under the EU, you're going to have a very, very big problem. I think that this is a big mistake that these countries are making, but of course, they don't make their own decisions. The laws are created mostly by these technocratic elite, and so who's to decide? Not us, that's for sure. Who has the highest debt? EU countries with the highest gross government debt as a share of GDP in 2018. At the top of the list, you have Greece, of course, but number 2 on there is Italy, followed by Portugal. So you can see that these countries here have ridiculously high amounts of debt, and that is in relation to their GDP. Now, their GDP numbers are grossly inflated as well. They are actually legally allowed to include illicit actions. I don't want to say the things that they're allowed to include, but I'm sure you've heard of it yourself. These countries here are doing all these things going on behind the scenes, and they include that. How do you get accurate numbers of that, first of all? And second of all, why is that included just because, okay, it's business going on, but no other country is doing that, no other area of the world is doing that we know of. So it is definitely skewing the numbers. Debt is a problem, and as I said before, because you have one country owing the other. They all owe it to each other, and they're selling each other's garbage debt back and forth. but they're all in debt to each other, and more importantly, they're all in debt to the central bank, which lends money to the governments at interest. This is looking at the ECB, and you can see that there are different rates of interest. Remember, it's not just like, for example, the Fed funds rate, okay? So in the interbank rate, we have seen it going into the negative. Interest rates are at 0%. You can see what has happened with the money supply and everything else. Deposit interest rates into the negative as well. There are different areas of Europe that are in negative right now, Japan as well, looking at different regions of the world and how that's been affecting them. Some of the countries are really, I think, hurting themselves long term. You can see that Denmark, for example, what's happening with mortgage rates. It's ridiculous. When you can give out a mortgage for nothing, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to inflate all of the prices. Now, the people in Denmark are saying, why rent? I got a free mortgage waiting for me. So they're doing that, but that just skews everything over the long term. A crash is good. It's a detoxification. What do you do to an alcoholic? Do you give him more alcohol? Is that the solution to the problem? That's what's happening today. They are giving them more alcohol. Don't do that. Take it away. Take the pain. It's going to take a day or two, but you'll be fine after. And you got to sober up, but that's not allowed to happen today. This is the balance sheet of the ECB, and it is just skyrocketing today. Going back from the creation of this failed system into what we see today, and ultimately more and more and more money is being printed, and they're doing so with all different programs. One of those programs is the CSPP. This is an interesting chart right here. I pulled directly from one of their government websites, but you will see here the Corporate Sector Purchase Program. That is another one. I mean, they have all different types of programs, in fact, where they have been doing one or the other, okay? It's all a matter of time and what they purchased this month and what they're selling this month. I don't have all the details at all times, but you have to go in and do that for yourself, search it out. But I do like to bring it to you as often as possible. They have been purchasing all kinds of things, and this right here with the CSPP is the most important one, I believe, because they are bailing out practically every single corporation, every major corporation in the EU, and they've done so because they have to. It would fail otherwise. This is an absolute fact, and it is not being addressed by the mainstream media. They actually bring this information out as if it is beneficial. That's what's so scary about all of this. In Italy right now, we have some big problems going on with the government, and they're deciding, what's going to happen. Is it going to be this one? Is it going to be that one? What do we do? I'm not going to read all the details of this here, but it basically just talks about the turmoil that's being experienced in the financial system as a result of all of this. I think it's a big problem that will have to unfold. In the meantime, we're going to see a lot of volatility. Italian banks led European financial stocks lower on growing concerns that fresh elections could strengthen the hand of populist parties to challenge European economic orthodoxy. Now, what they're saying here, by the way, they mentioned Monte, which is one of the banks that was actually bailed out just recently. It led to declines with a drop of as much as 7.8%. I mean, that is huge. For a single day drop. We're going to see more of that, in fact, as time goes on, not just in here, but in other places. Imagine they've been bailed out, printing billions and billions of dollars, sending it into all these corporations every single month. And yet they are still falling because the real money is leaving and central bank fake money is trying to make up for those losses. But there's only so much that they can do because there's, you need to have the whole market support to get in there too. I mean, the central banks can't print it all or else they will hyperinflate the currency. All right. Looking at this here, it is important to understand what's happening with the financial sector and how that connects globally, okay? Because then the contagion effect, of course, will occur. Very quickly, just wanted to end this on this note that we have seen crude oil drop right now. This is as of yesterday's numbers, but we're looking at a drop not seen for a little while here. So we're gonna see gas prices just drop, just a fraction of this. And I'm going to do a whole video, stay tuned for this, by the way, on the difference between gas and oil prices. I've been trying to find some good charts on this. I've been unable to, but I want to show you how that spread in between what we pay for gas, what we pay for oil, I mean, it's absurd. And we've seen Crude oil dropped down now, quite a bit, but the gas prices will not drop in correlation to this. It is an unbelievable scam they're pulling on us. This, of course, will not stimulate the economy. Okay? Having the crude oil drop down to $30, $40 a barrel, it was there for a while. That didn't stimulate the economy. We were told it would. It didn't. Here we are. Anyway, that's all for this video. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, it helps to support this channel, so I do appreciate that very much. Last but not least, if you found this video informative, I know that you will find my books, The Money GPS, and my newer release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. You can actually flip through these books. All you gotta do is go over to Amazon. There's a look inside feature, which will allow you to flip through the pages of these books to see if you like them. Take care.